Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in today's video, we are going to be reacting to Do We Still Know Kevin Durant? Do we still know Kevin Durant? Remember that? Remember when he said that? Remember when he said that? Just run the clip if I can find it. You know what I mean? All right, let's get right into it.
Hey, Kevin, I'm just wondering if you can walk us through, what it is you said that, this hurts. It hurts all of us. Is that reflective of what you're feeling, or how do you reflect on this?
Yeah, we want to win.
Polarizing.
At this very moment, Kevin Durant is 6 seconds away from becoming the best player in the world. Memories of his 2 championships and finals MVP in every.
If KD doesn't put his big old toe on the line, he beats Giannis, I think he goes on to beat the Hawks. He goes to the finals against the Suns. I think he can beat the Suns by himself, or at least with a hobble James Harden. And Kyrie probably comes back too, so I think they beat the Suns. And Kevin Durant will claim his 3rd ring, and that whole thing with Steph Curry, him not being able to win without Steph Curry, is just over. Unfortunately, that's not what history told us, so.
Everyone's mind. His identical daggers still haunt the city of Cleveland, and right now he has 46 points in the box score and a chance to punch Brooklyn's ticket to the conference finals with 1 shot. At this point in his career, everything makes sense. He's in the middle of his 3rd chapter with a handpicked superstar backcourt beside him, and even though things haven't gone perfectly, the Nets stayed alive because of Kevin Durant. He's been a problem solver everywhere he's been, the superstar who gives teams the firepower to score consistently at the highest level of the sport. And if he makes this 3, he'll have done it again. He catches, turns, shoots, and the crowd goes crazy. But most of you know what comes next. The refs go to the monitor and find irrefutable evidence. The outer edge of his toe was just barely on the line, and that meant the shot didn't win the game. It tied it. We didn't know it at the time, but that was it. The last great Kevin Durant moment stolen away by less than an inch.
I don't know if it was the last great Kevin Durant, maybe the last great Kevin Durant moment in the postseason. I think, for sure.
And ever since then, we've all been waiting for the next big stage and the next Durant masterpiece to accompany it.
We haven't seen it yet.
It's been 5 years since that shot, and KD looks mostly the same on the floor. He's a scorer so gifted, he makes 30 points look effortless. That makes the next part of this even more confusing. We're still waiting for the next Kevin Durant masterpiece.
We haven't seen it.
Nobody knows why.
We haven't seen it. The search for Kevin Durant. Wow.
As devastating as falling 1 shoe size short of a potential championship was, no one expected it to be a tragic memory because the Nets were terrifyingly talented. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were the most exciting duo in basketball the moment they signed their contracts. And when the team traded for James Harden halfway through the 2021 season, the hype.
Hey, when they traded for James Harden, I genuinely thought, oh, they're going to win it all. When they traded for James Harden, I thought, oh, they're going to win it all. If everyone stays healthy and this goes how everything looks, they are going to win it all. Kevin Durant is about to get his 3rd ring as the best player on the team, which he was the best player on the team when he won his first 2 championships, because he was better than Steph Curry in both finals. But there's a reason why we say he can't win without Steph Curry. And yeah, KD wins here. We don't say nothing. We don't say nothing. We shut our big old fat mouths.
Reached absurd levels. Brooklyn now had 2 former MVPs, as well as the most feared ball handler in the history of basketball. Maybe they need time to put it together, and maybe the front office would need a season or 2 to put the right pieces around that. But all the information we had told us that the Nets were going to play for a title one day. Then the playoffs began, and Brooklyn demolished Boston in round 1. Literally. Led by their trio of stars, putting up numbers that hardly made sense. It was exactly what we we all anticipated when those three first teamed up. Unfortunately, the good vibes stopped right after that. In game 1 of that Bucks series, James Harden pulled his hamstring, and in game 4, Kyrie Irving went down with an ankle injury. Harden grinded his teeth and returned to the floor in game 5, but he wasn't the same. His burst was clearly missing, and without that sudden first step, the defensive-minded Bucks were able to take him out of the game.
Hey, that's true, but with just Kyrie and KD, they went up 2-0. I just want everybody to remember, anyone that had watched that series back in 2021 knows. Yeah. I mean, the Bucks won the championship that year, but anyone that watched that series knows that the freaking Bucks, it looked bad. They were gonna look like they about to get swept or like lose in like 5 games.
That's how Kevin Durant ended up in that situation. 48 points on 36 shots, 53 minutes played, and in overtime with completely dead legs. The Nets lost to the Bucks in the extra period of game 7, but everyone knew why. It was just bad luck. A brutal string of injuries at the worst possible time. And even with all of that, they still nearly pulled it off. After that, they came into the next season as one of the favorites to come out of the East. But once again,
they ran it back.
Away, and this time, it had nothing to do with injuries. It was COVID. Kyrie Irving was refusing to get vaccinated, and according to the league's policy at the time, that meant he couldn't play. Over the course of the season, that gradually changed. At one point, he could play in away games only, and by the end of the season, those would be lifted as well. But the intermittent absences took an irreparable toll.
Hey, KD had to deal with a lot, okay? Because James Harden wanted to be traded, by the way. He did end up getting traded. And then Kyrie just didn't want to get vaccinated, which, again, that's, you know, his personal beliefs and whatever and whatnot, and that's not something we're really going to get into, but, you know, it did lead to them having dysfunction and no communication, and they weren't really in sync, and you know how that turned out.
On team chemistry, reports were surfacing that said James Harden was growing frustrated with the interruptions, and a couple icy press conferences more or less confirmed that. For the first couple months, the team navigated the contentious atmosphere, but in January, the last pillar of stability went out. Kevin Durant went down with a sprained MCL in a game against the Pelicans, and without the best scorer in basketball, the Nets went into a free fall. They lost 11 games in a row, and before that losing streak ended, James Harden was done. He demanded a trade, and a few days later, the front office fulfilled his wish.
He got right out of there.
In the end, that trio of unprecedented offensive firepower played 16 total games together.
That boy
They
got
sent their star
He should have just stayed, honestly, to tell you the truth.
Point guard to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond.
It did not turn out well.
And then they tried to right the ship, and they sort of did. Over the second half of the season, Brooklyn
did play
rebounded
really
enough
well,
to
though.
secure the 7th seed in a matchup against the same team they picked apart last year, the Boston Celtics.
No, it was not the same team, bro. Jaylen Brown actually played this postseason. Also, they weren't a 7 seed. It was reversed this time. Don't say they were the same team. They were not the same team.
He was fully cleared to play. Kevin Durant was back healthy, and even though they didn't have Harden anymore, the roster around those two was still solid. That was enough for most pundits to ignore the seeding and pick the Nets to beat the Celtics. But in the first round series, Boston shut down the Nets stars. It was unthinkable before the playoffs started, but they did it. The Celtics swept the Nets. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum swarmed Kevin Durant all series, while Kyrie Irving faced a steady rotation of defensive-minded guards. And as soon as Game 4 ended, everyone knew what it meant. The Brooklyn Nets experiment was over.
Yes,
1 year
it was.
later, they blew the whole thing up, and Kevin Durant chose Phoenix as his preferred trade destination. He never averaged less than 26 points per game as a net, and never shot below 50%.
Nope, he did not.
Somehow, his stint in Brooklyn felt incomplete.
It was incomplete. It was incomplete and short, and it didn't work out.
Phoenix was a stark contrast to Brooklyn. There were some similarities. Durant had a co-star in Devin Booker, and the Suns' offense was elite, but their style was more collaborative and less isolation heavy, and that seemed like a promising change. His first half season in the desert was a moderate success. Durant hit the ground running, helped Phoenix beat the Clippers in round 1, and then became the only team to take more than 1 game off the eventual champions in round 2. All things considered, it was tough to ask for much more from a mid-season acquisition addition of that magnitude.
Yeah.
After all, the Suns had given up 2 premier wing defenders and 1 knockdown shooter to add him. They need time to revamp the roster around their new superstar duo. You know, all the wise GM moves
Should've
like
just kept
finding some
Ayton
new primary
and Chris
defenders
Paul.
and adding some point guard depth behind the aging Chris Paul. But Matt Ishbia
Yeah.
went in a different direction.
Oh my God, he did. And he went out and got freaking He went out and signed Bradley Beal. Once again, they tried to do that ISO gang, stupid, crap. Oh God. Oh my God. Why did they? I mean, a guy that was averaging
In a
30, but
shocking and
still.
ill-advised big swing, the Suns sent Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and 10 total picks when you
Oh,
add
that
up
was
all the
so
swaps
stupid.
for Bradley Beal. The team was gone, and only the stars remain. Without any true point guards on the roster, Phoenix managed to finish the regular season 1 game away from 50 wins. They'd made the playoffs in the West on the back of their sheer offensive ability,
Yep.
and in round 1, they'd get to test that against a young Timberwolves team. Again, the experts looked at their rosters, weighed the important parts of playoff basketball like tough shot making and experience, and most of them picked the Suns. It felt like the responsible choice. Sure enough, in game 1, Kevin Durant delivered. He had 31 points on a ridiculous 11 for 17 from the field, but it didn't matter. Anthony Edwards blew by everyone in front of him, and worst of all, Phoenix had nothing to counter with, and Minnesota took advantage of them. The Wolves won game 1 by 25 points in spite of Kevin Durant's greatness, and that was the theme for the entire series. No matter how well Durant played,
And they
no
got
matter
swept.
how well Booker played, and even in games where Bradley Beal delivered, Minnesota simply had too much balance. They could defend, pass, play with pace, and protect the ball. All the little things that Phoenix struggled with, and because of that, the Wolves swept the Suns, leaving a defining image of Anthony Edwards hitting a 3 in Kevin Durant's face before backpedaling down the floor and talking the whole way. It was obvious now. This was a talented team that wasn't designed with the right pieces to win basketball games. That offseason,
Maybe because you decided to trade Chris Paul for Bradley Beal when you shouldn't have did that. You should have just kept Ayton and Chris Paul and then just built the rest of the roster around them. And maybe, just maybe that team could have went back to the finals and maybe won a championship. But nope, it's not what happened.
they tried to correct their wrongs by adding Tyus Jones, but it wasn't enough. The offense was still good most of the time, and great every once in a while, but the defense was abysmal, and injuries kept Durant and Beal out for extended stretches. Halfway through what was quickly turning into a nightmare season, Phoenix tried to press the eject button. They put together a deal that would send Durant back to Golden State to play alongside all of his old teammates.
Yep, except KD decided to deny the trade because he felt like it was the wrong thing to do during the time. Even though he could have went back and joined the Warriors and potentially made a final push. Also, I think Jimmy Butler might have been on the roster at this point. I don't even remember, honestly. But, hey. You win some, you lose some, right? Oh, man. Both these teams are so fucking stupid.
Down in the Bay. But when they came to him with the offer, he said no. And after that negotiation dissolved, an eerie rift.
He shouldn't have said no. He should just return back and Golden State. But apparently, I guess bro just thought it was the wrong time. Well, guess what? Now you're never going back to the Warriors, bro.
Materialized between Durant and the Suns. He finished out the season with professionalism. Phoenix missed the playoffs, and in the offseason, a deal was made that both parties could agree upon. That summer, by his own request, Kevin Durant became a Houston Rocket.
It's gonna get real bad, y'all. Everyone knows how this pans out.
The Nets idea was high risk, high reward, and the Suns experiment was blown up by a headline-driven trade that no one.
I just want to acknowledge everyone. Sorry where that just came from. The Eagles trade AJ Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first round pick. That's crazy. And Myles Garrett was just traded earlier for Myles Garrett was just traded earlier for Jared Verse in a first round pick. It's crazy world we're living in, right? Right?
could have predicted, but this, going to a team with a roster full of elite young defenders, this made complete sense. The year before, Houston lost to Golden State in round 1 of the playoffs, and the only thing holding them back was a half-court offense. They could stop anyone, or almost anyone, and they could out-rebound any team in the league. All they needed was someone who could get them a bucket when the game slowed down at the end, and no one was better qualified for that than Kevin Durant. But really the issue started early. Fred VanVleet, the team's only true point guard, tore his ACL in training camp. The ramifications of that were alarming, but the Rockets had playmakers. Even if they didn't have experienced point guards, there was still hope that they could piece things together and make a run. And as the season started, it looked like that was going to be the case, but the hits just never stopped coming. First it was Steven Adams, the best offensive rebounder in basketball, and Houston's secret weapon, went down with a season-ending ankle injury in January. Then after suffering 2 devastating injuries, there was the All-Star game weirdness.
The KD files. The mother freaking trucking KD files. You know it. I know it. The world knows it. Your mama knows it. Your grandma knows it. Everyone that watches the NBA and was around that knows about the whole KD files. Oh man. Oh man, it destroyed them. It destroyed them young guys. It really destroyed them young guys. This is why a lot of people are saying Kevin Durant ruins young teams. He really destroyed them. You know, and people saying, well, was he wrong? That doesn't make it any better.
Have enough verified information to get too far into it. There was a rumor that spread rapidly of Kevin Durant saying
it wasn't
some
a
less than
rumor.
kind
It was
about
real.
his teammates in some Twitter group chats.
He totally
and while
did it.
nothing was confirmed, the atmosphere around the team from that moment forward felt different, ominous even. Still, they kept playing, ended their regular season on an 8-game winning streak, entered the playoffs with the same record they had last season, and then the bracket fell their way. Their first round matchup would be against a Lakers team without Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves was going to miss the first 4 games. Sure, Kevin Durant was going to miss game 1 with a bone bruise, but everyone expected him to come back and lead Houston's young core to its first playoff series win. Then the Rockets lost game 1 without him, and in game 2, Los Angeles doubled Durant every time he touched the ball. He ended that game with 23 points and 9 turnovers, and the Rockets failed to score 100 points for the second consecutive game in a row en route to losing game 2. The national media began seriously worrying about Houston's situation, and the fans started clinging to hopes of an improbable comeback until the news broke. Kevin Durant had sprained his ankle in game 2, and now he was done for the series. At 37 years old, he averaged 26 points a game, came 3 free throw percentage points away from shooting 50, 40, 90, and missed only 4 regular season games. And then he missed 5 of their 6 games in the playoffs.
Yes, he did.
The Rockets season ended in the same round as the year before. One more unimaginable outcome.
Hey. They still looking for you, Katie.
At this point, you've probably noticed the same thing we have. In each of these last 5 seasons, all of which have ended earlier than we thought they would, it's pretty much impossible to blame Kevin Durant. In Brooklyn,
It's impossible to blame Kevin Durant for certain aspects. The Suns, I feel like that was broken up a little too fast. Also, these trades that they're doing, it always comes down to these trades. You should have never traded for Bradley Beal. That also ruined it. Brooklyn, James Harden wanted out. He should have just stayed. Kyrie wouldn't get the vaccination, but then they came back to the end of the season. Kevin Durant did, and then Kevin Durant just doesn't play good against Boston. Neither does Kyrie. You know? And, like, it just seems like unfortunate events have just happened to Kevin Durant ever since then. So, yeah, but, like, Kevin Durant does take some blame in all this. He's not unblameable in this. He definitely does take some blame.
he was the steadiest part of a foundation that fell apart with each passing week. In Phoenix, he was the hyper-efficient scorer they wanted next to Devin Booker. And in Houston, he was exactly what they wanted him to be until he got hurt. It would be disingenuous to say that even one of those was strictly Kevin Durant's fault, but all of them combined point us to a new question. Is Kevin Durant still the answer we think he is? By now, he's
At this current stage in his career, I don't know if he's the answer necessarily. Um, he can totally definitely be the answer to a team that just needs that like here's the problem with the Rockets. They don't have that guy. Not only do they not have that guy, but they don't have it. They don't have what it takes. I'm just gonna say right then there. They don't have what it takes. Houston doesn't have what it takes. First and foremost, Jalen Green had one bad playoff series, and that was his first bad playoff series. His first series. And you traded him. But I guess, you wanted, Kevin Durant was an upgrade, but you traded him. The only guy that kind of had the balls to actually just shoot the ball, you traded him. And even though Amen and, Sengun are good, they're great, and everything like that, and they're better than Jalen, Amen still hasn't improved that jump shot. Sengun is a literal statue in a cone and gets run around on defense. He's a fake baby Jokic. And he's very inefficient. Saw that in the Lakers series.
A 37-year-old half-court scorer in a league that keeps getting faster. He's a max contract under a new salary cap that's more restrictive than ever. And on top of all of that, he's not invested in any one team. Brooklyn built a super team around him, and 3 years after it was constructed, he wasn't there. Phoenix thought he was the missing piece, and 2 years later, they were remaking the team entirely. There's no way to know what happens in Houston, and it's entirely possible that they put all of the pieces together with a healthy team next season. But for now, the trend continues. Kevin Durant is nearly as good as he's ever been, and next year, he probably still will be. But until the playoffs roll around and he gets his next opportunity, we'll be doing the same thing we've been doing for half a decade, waiting.
It's true. I mean, it's true. Kevin Durant is polarizing, and it'll stay that way. And if he does ever win another ring, good for him. It might change people's opinion about him, but I don't think Kevin Durant really cares about people's opinion about him. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was Do We Still Know Kevin Durant? That was a really good video, honestly. It kind of really summed up what Kevin Durant's career has been like after Golden State, and, just how things have transpired with the front office and bad trades and, just not playing up to expectations sometimes. And unfortunately, that happens in life, and, things happen. But, hopefully Kevin Durant can bounce back and Houston can do something next year. But I don't really know what that looks like, especially with OKC being as good as they are. You know, uh, the Wolves still being as good as they are. Spurs, coming up on the rise. The Thunder just being still pretty good. Lakers still obviously being a better team even without Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic. Kevin Durant wasn't even there, but still, you know what I mean? That's something to say for it, and they were just already a better team than Houston anyway. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys subscribe. As we're still trying to build this channel and we're trying to grow as much as possible. I'm gonna get out of here. Until next time, this is over.